Hey, what's up, everybody? So, I've had a lot of people ask me on my stream and on Instagram as well, just what I think of the, no physical editions anymore from Sony thing that happened the other day. And I wanted to talk a little bit about it, and I kind of wanted to talk about it just in a conversation form. Everybody has said what they have to say about it. Nobody likes this. This is not a good, it's not a good look when it comes to people that like to collect, like myself. It's just not a good look. It's not good for us, and it if anything, it alienates people. Now, I want to talk about a little story that happened to me just a couple days before they announced this, which I think everything happens for a reason. And I think, whether that's good or bad, that's up to you to interpret. But I do think everything happens for a reason. And I think what happened a few days before the announcement is kind of fun because it's in relation to the whole physical media thing. If you know me, I'm a big physical media type person. I have over like 600 DVDs in their cases, pristine, in my closet here. I just don't have space for them anywhere. Plus DVDs are, you find everything on streaming now, similar to what's going on with gaming. But I also like to collect physical video games as well. I have an entire shelf here of just PS5, PS4, PS1, GameCube, PS2, all these. And I've accumulated these games just over my childhood. I started gaming back in, I was born in 95, so I'm old as shit. I'm 31. I started really gaming probably like Super Nintendo. I was definitely into, and then I got a Nintendo 64 for my birthday. And, from there, it's been just kind of hand-me-downs from my brothers. So a lot of my childhood was kind of hand-me-downs of physical media. And that's a big part of physical media, is the ability to hand it down to the next generation or give it to a friend or whatever you want to do because you bought the game. You bought the game. You should have the right to share the game. What's the difference between you coming to my house and playing the game and me just borrowing you the disc? That's kind of my thing with this, is like, physical media is very important, to the ecosystem in general. But I wanted to talk about something that happened a few days ago, and I decided, hey, I really want to get a Switch 2. I really want one. They're getting a little harder to find in my area. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to try and go and get one. But, I got a wedding coming up. I don't want to really spend the money on a Switch 2 right now. I took it to my local game store, not GameStop, and I felt like I got a fair price. I had a stack of PS2 games, probably 16, maybe 17 games. And the games that I collect, I don't just collect to collect. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people out there that you can find that, like, they just have bookshelves of games and they never fucking touch them. Games that are sealed, all that stuff. And I have some sealed games myself, but it's mostly like Resident Evil, stuff that really means a lot to me, that I not only have a digital version of, but I also have a physical version of, just to support the game a little bit. But for the most part, the games I own physically are games that matter to me, games that I want to have forever type of thing. And what I decided to do, I was like, I don't really have the money to buy a Switch 2 right now. I really want to get one, and this is a good time to get one because I found one for a good price. So I said, hey, I'm just going to take my PS2 games in, and I know that's blasphemy. I know, but you have to understand, like, when it comes to physical media, a lot of this stuff is restricted to the old hardware, to things like, for example, The Punisher. That's one of my favorite PS2 games ever made. I had to have a copy of that to play it because there was nowhere else to play it until I, figured out emulation, which is the future. Piracy is the future. I'm sorry, guys. That's, whoever's upset about that, you're crazy to me. But piracy is the future. And ever since I started emulating, I said, well, you know what? I've played and I've tested every PS2 game that I love, that I own physically, on my computer. This emulation set's been going for a long time. I don't see it going away. If it does, oh well, somebody else will bring stuff up. It's fine. Point of the matter is, I decided to get rid of those PS2 games, and I evaluated it. I checked out exactly what I had, and I kind of gave a fair price for what I wanted, and I got very close to that price. Obviously, you're not going to always get the value in which you really want, not always, at least, unless you find the right people. But I wanted to get this done. I traded that in. I got myself a Switch 2, Star Fox, the Yoshi game for Adriana, an extra controller, and I still had some money left over. So what I'm trying to say is, like, the idea that I didn't even really have to spend more than like maybe a couple bucks, like if even that, I don't even think I spent any money because I have credit left over. The fact that I didn't have to spend that much of my own money is the reason gaming, and like even PC, like the PC world for a long time was, I mean, it should still be like this, but unfortunately the way scalpers are and the way things are nowadays in the ecosystem, everything's expensive. It used to be when somebody was done with their 2070, they would put it up on the marketplace for a good price, and they would upgrade with the money that they sell that for to get a 3070 or a 4070, whatever they wanted to upgrade to. That was the ecosystem. That's how it should be. It should be, hey, I'm done with this. I want it to move on to a better owner. I'm not going to use it. Here you go. And then you pass it on. That's how it should be. Imagine if you weren't allowed to do that with like your GPU or with like a memory unit. You know what I mean? Like your HD or your SSD, like, hey, I'm just selling my computer parts, I want to get rid of them. Imagine you couldn't do that. Imagine everything was just digital, and when you were done with it, you just decided, hey, I'm just gonna uninstall my computer altogether. It just doesn't make any sense. Physically, if I buy something, it should belong to me. Like, that's just the case. And the whole thing, you know, something that we all don't realize is, like, a lot of us don't realize at least, is that even if you are buying a disc, if you read the fine print, you're only really paying to play the license. You're not, you know, the disc is technically not yours. You know, you can't pirate it. You can't do anything with it. You can copy it, nothing. So in a way, I wasn't really surprised by the idea. And my story altogether at that Yap Sesh that I had there, it was just to prove a point that, like, you should be able to, when you're done with something, sell it to somebody who wants it and get the next best thing if you really want to do that. These game companies don't want that, though. They don't want you to sell your old shit to get new shit. They don't like it for some reason. It's just, I don't know. I'm not sure. From a corporate standpoint, I guess I get it, but I'm not going to sit here and defend trillionaires, man. It's disgusting the amount of people that are, like, okay with this, like, whole, you know, I have seen, you know, there's a lot of people that are in, you know, in that ballpark of saying this is bullshit. I'll give it that. The boycott Sony thing, cool. But then there's the other half that is just, like, absolutely insane, and they're like, hey, you know, like, this is fine, this is the way it was going to go anyway. And it was, and I understand that standpoint of, like, yeah, this was the way it was going to go, but it just really sucks that we're just going to fold and let that happen. You know what I mean? But at the same time, being devil's advocate, I suppose, Sony did say in their blog or whatever that, like, they technically are noticing that digital sales are just more dominant. You know, it's just a more dominant atmosphere, and it makes sense. Everybody wants to be Wall-E now. Everybody wants to be a fat person just rolling around in a chair, fucking eating through a straw. That's what people want. They want their entertainment right then and there. Hit a button on your controller and you're instantly into the next game. That's what people want, and I understand that because I get like that sometimes too. There's quite a few games I have digitally that I didn't buy physically because just out of convenience. 007, the First Light was my first, honestly, thought to that. That's what I have as a digital version of it. So, you know, when it comes down to it, though, the ecosystem needs that trade. It needs that human element of trading together and, like, you know, comparing, just like cards. You know what I mean? Like, if you couldn't trade your cards to friends, the whole thing would be a joke. It would be a waste of time. It would just be playing with, like, magic cards online. It would just be boring. It wouldn't have that human element to it. So the fact that PlayStation back in 2013, when Xbox crapped all over themselves and vomited all over the stage with the whole everything's got to be online only and DRM and, like, your disc will copy to your account, they were kind of ahead of the curve. Like, Xbox put themselves behind everybody because they saw the future and decided to act on the future too soon. And obviously, in my opinion, like, when this announcement happened with Sony, I wasn't surprised. And that's why I didn't make a video right away on it, because it's like, I don't know, I'm not really surprised. GTA just announced that they're doing an only digital copy, and then PlayStation immediately after does it. It's almost like they're just working in tandem to do this. You know, like, it almost seems like this was the plan all along. Back in 2013, Sony just jumped on the opportunity to kind of make fun of Xbox and kind of push them under a little bit. You could say a lot of people are like, well, Nintendo could take over because they're still doing cartridges. No, because Nintendo is its own ecosystem. They are controlling the handheld and family market for gaming. Like, that is their own thing. So, like, they're not competing. You know what I mean? The only competition that Sony really has is Microsoft and maybe Steam. But you guys need to understand too, we have to see this kind of shit coming, because even on Steam, there are stipulations. You don't own your Steam library. You might think you do, but you don't. Like, they could take games off at any point whenever they want. They could do that. They aren't doing that, but they could do that. Similar to what Sony did with all these movies that they got rid of just last week. They got rid of like 500 movies. I own a couple of those movies. They got rid of a bunch of my movies, and that's that. You know what I mean? That's it. You know, you paid for things. Who cares? You know, like, that's kind of fucked up, right? Like, they can do that on Steam just as easily as they can do it on Sony. So, like, or on PlayStation. So don't expect, like, things to be any better on PC. You know, you can pirate on PC. You can try and do that. Like, I've been able to do that. I've been able to emulate Call the Police, but not everybody's going to be able to do that right away. Not everybody's going to know how to do that. And, like, just remember, really your best way of playing your old games physically is to have old hardware. And for somebody like me, I got tired of repairing my PS2. Like, I can't find the parts for them anymore. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to emulate. And as soon as I find an emulator for my 360 and my GameCube games, maybe those will be out the door too. But the idea that in the future for the PlayStation 6 and on, 2028 and on, which I think is when the PS6 and the Xbox Helix is going to be out, it's going to be all digital. you're not going to be getting any discs. Like from here on, you're not going to be able to put your disc in. You're not going to be able to put your dick in the dickless machine anymore. You're not going to be able to do it. You're not going to be able to do it. So when it comes down to it, this is bad for the ecosystem. It's ugly. And I know this is like a yap session, but it's ugly for the ecosystem. And it shows that Sony has full control over this part of the market. They own us now when it comes down to it. And part of this is Microsoft's fault. They should have competed a lot better. Like they should have put up more of a fight, but they've even tried to push that digital only foundation with Game Pass and all of the shit that they've been doing over the last couple decades. This is the future. This is what they've been wanting to do. Nintendo dabbles in it. It's crazy we're seeing Nintendo as the good guys here because they're still somewhat doing cartridges. Like I got Star Fox 64, Switch 2, and it came with a cart. So I don't know, you know, it's I'm glad I didn't get a digital code, I suppose, but like it's a possibility, I guess. So like they're 50-50 on it, but Sony as of 2028, like January, they're done with it. And people think that it's just PlayStation games. No, it's third-party games as well. They're not releasing anything physical for the PS5 and 6. Like they're done with it after 2028. So if you have a disc drive, good for you. You know what I mean? You might be the last of the dying breed. So like if it is possible, I would say probably go and try and get a physical edition PS5 because they are still selling them, unfortunately. I don't know why they're still selling them, but they're still selling them and your old games will work on it. So that's really all we have. I'm a little sad though that like in reality, like I've lived through the age of discs and like that's kind of fucking scary to me that like we're coming to the end. Like first it was rental stores, then it was CDs, and then it was DVDs, and now it's like Blu-rays are almost on the way out now too, it seems like. I don't know, man, like there's a reason they're doing this, and it's because digital outsells physical 9-1, and that is an ugly margin. That's really bad, especially because when it feels like you're the majority that doesn't want physical editions to go away, but then you see that 90% of the market buys digital, you're kind of gonna lose. You know what I mean? So I don't really think there's anything we can do besides pretty much say fuck the PS6, fuck the Xbox Helix, and fuck digital only. That's all we can really say. But I have a firm belief that people like me, like you're not gonna stop gaming. You know what I mean? If there's a great lineup on the PS6, I'm probably gonna buy a PS6. So it's really just they're just taking advantage, knowing what they can get away with, and they're gonna get away with this, and that's unfortunate. But I just wanted to talk about that a little bit, tell that little story about like, you know, I got rid of my physical games and then suddenly physical media is like going out the window. So maybe it was the perfect time to sell, maybe not, who knows. But if you have old hardware, play on that. That's really all I can suggest to you guys. Like that's really the only way I can see it. Though it is getting harder to get that old hardware. So this is the future. This is what they want, and it really stinks, and it's corporate greed. And I personally think they should appeal to both sides. They should make physical editions, maybe make less of them because there's less people that want them, but still make physical editions of games. People like to have things on their shelf. They just do. And granted, you'll probably still be able to get a box with a code in it, but it ain't the same. It ain't the same. So start pirating because owning your games is not owning your games anymore. So here we go, guys. See you later.